Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards Reviews, and today we're looking at this little box of joy, which is Tang Garden from ThunderGryph Games. And Tang Garden was originally came to us through the channel of Kickstarter, where it was very well funded, to the point where there was a couple of expansions released at the time. And now it's headed to retail in the version that you spy in front of you now. So, the question is it any good? Is it a garden of delights? Or is it an icky sticky swamp? There's only one way to find out. Well, I've already found out, I guess. Just got to tell you all about it. The aim of the game is quite simple. The game is set in the Tang Dynasty era, between the years of 618 and 907, and the Emperor at the time has drafted in several garden architects in order to build one of the best gardens they could potentially find or build. Your idea is quite simple, is that by either laying down decorations or by laying down tiles, you'll be building up the garden, you'll be adding points, you will be linking in different landscapes together with a view of then attracting various visitors who are going to, at the end of the day, help you to raise the largest amount of money possible and therefore give you victory to the game. First things first, I don't think I've seen a game as quite as produced as Tang Garden. It comes down to the kind of, the stretch goals type thing. This game did extremely well, which means there was pretty much no expense spared with anything come from the actual art to the kind of the individual kind of pieces that you actually play with. They're all of extremely high quality. The trees look the part, they look fantastic. The individual tiles, the chits, the art on the cards are just, they're absolutely fantastic to look at. It is a absolutely stunning looking game when it's on the table. I mean, if this is a game that is probably going to end up across being photographed across kind of like Pinterest and places like Instagram as well, then this is the game that is going to get photographed. It's going to get the game that's going to appear across blogs, and when they write reviews there's probably going to be more pictures than there's going to be words. As the game progresses, you're given just it's a very kind of basic, simple game to play. You are effectively going to be taking one of these tiles from one of the corners, and based on the type of tile that it is, you're then going to be laying it, hoping to match against an existing tile that's kind of placed there. As time goes on, you'll kind of enclose certain areas which score you points. Laying down a tile kind of scores you kind of influence in your kind of your mana track on your kind of your player board. And as you play the game and you lay your tiles, you'll be increasing the amount of mana that you've got, which is either going to bring you kind of like a kind of a bonus in the form of a character that you can play in the game, or a bonus as in kind of extra kind of victory points or kind of money. It's a fairly kind of relatively kind of elegant and quite simple to kind of get your hands on in terms of mechanics. The other thing that you'll do is you'll be laying down your kind of your decorations, or as you can see here, you'll also be laying down kind of background kind of landscapes, which almost give it kind of like an impression of a beautifully decorated kind of fish tank, which is interesting in its own way. As you go, you'll be laying your characters, and your characters will kind of have a line of sight, and that line of sight will allow them to see kind of various straight lines towards these backgrounds, and then when it comes to kind of like the end of game, then that will grant you kind of additional money and therefore kind of additional victory points. Your character cards you start off with a character, there's minis. I mean, there's minis on this game. Even though it kind of doesn't need minis, there's minis on this game, which you can see. You've got a choice of holding on to your character, your mini, and keeping it on your character card, and that will continually grant you a power. Or alternatively, you've got the option where you can take your character and you'll be able to kind of lay it on the board. You see, Tang Garden, it looks fantastic, but usability wise, it's a bit of a dog. To play it's quite tricky. And the reason for this is, well, there's two reasons. One of them is the strive to make this as a visual representation as possible. Apart from the names on the character cards and the names on the individual kind of decoration cards that you'll play as well, it's very, very kind of text independent. The issue with that is that the iconography is not always very easy to kind of make out, and secondly, it's easy to forget because there's quite a few kind of rules that kind of play off kind of each other. You'll either decide to lay a decoration or you'll decide to lay a tile. Based on what you do, that'll have an effect on how you reset the tiles or how you reset the kind of the decoration cards. Based on how you lay the tiles down. If that finishes off an area, you'll get points. If it finishes in a blank wall, you get different points. If you tie an area together, you get points. If you get a specific tile, you kind of get points. And they're all kind of independent of each other. So, unfortunately, more often than not, you'll hear that dreaded term, which is, do you mind if I check the rules, please? And that is not because the game is difficult, it's because there's so many little kind of moving parts, and because the kind of the game itself doesn't seem to want to help you to remember stuff. You'll end up having to refer back to the rule book kind of more often than you want to, which is a little bit of a shame. And there is nothing worse than having somebody having to kind of stop the game while they check stuff. Not because there's been a discussion about whether or not a rule should be played a certain way, but just kind of like not there not being an easy way to remember how something's meant to play. Tang Garden is a game that is screaming out for like a reference sheet, and it kind of blows my mind a little bit how it kind of went through obviously all this process and all this kind of artistic development, to which somebody kind of didn't kind of look at the kind of the usability and decide, hey, well, maybe we kind of need a cheat sheet on this bad boy so that people can remember what they're meant to be doing and how they're meant to be playing. Kind of tying that in with the actual individual tiles themselves. I mean, I don't know if you can see this, and you probably can't, but there is an icon on that tile. There's an icon on this tile. There's an icon on kind of like most of the tiles, and you know, even holding it up as close as I can to the camera, I'd totally forgive you if you wouldn't be able to see them. And to me, that's an unnecessary burden on the player. You should be able to. This is such a visual game. In my view, you should be able to basically stare at the board and know where you are in terms of how you're doing, how you're playing. I think the issue with Tang Garden is there's so many kind of components upon components that sometimes trying to make a decision of what you're meant to be doing or where you're meant to be going can sometimes be kind of a little bit confusing. I wouldn't necessarily want to have kind of like colour blindness or anything like that, and try and make up the icons as well. They're just kind of very, very faint. It's quite a light game for what it promises on the table. it plays relatively quite quickly once you kind of understand where the game goes. There's minis here. I mean, every single thing. The chips are just, you know, fantastic. But again, it's just like little annoyances. Like, here's the lanterns. You get one off kind of lanterns which have special powers which allow you to kind of use a lantern which grants you certain things. But there's also, because there's a solo player variant which is kind of like a kind of a beat the points kind of puzzle game, they've also got their own special powers. But that's the difference in the lantern colours between the solo game and the multiplayer game. The frustration with it as well is that at no point in the rulebook does it actually kind of give you a breakdown of which is which, so often that you're kind of left kind of in the lurch kind of figuring out what it is. And that's the kind of the biggest pain in the butt, is that here is a game that is absolutely fantastically produced, and in some cases I would even go as far as kind of overproduced. But if they'd siphoned some of the resources to get somebody to actually look at the usability factor and make sure that people could actually understand what they were playing, then it would, in my mind, it would just genuinely kind of improve the game. So it's good, but it's not great. And for some people, it will be too frustrating for them to want to have it, play it for a second time. However, if you're like a showboat gamer, if you like to have something that's got a huge table presence and you love kind of taking these low down angle kind of pictures and sticking them on Instagram, then you're going to love Tang Garden. You're going to love the setup. You're going to love the playing. It's not heavy by any stretch of the imagination at all. It's a serviceable, light game that kind of is over garnished in all the kind of wrong ways, and it's kind of under garnished in the places where it really, really could do with some kind of further kind of time, development, thought, maybe a bit of all. So that's Tang Garden from ThunderGryph Games. My name's Richard. This is We're Not Wizards. Thanks for watching. If you like what you have watched, please like, please subscribe, and tell other people about the channel. But until the next time, stay safe. Roll pagodas. Got a 6. Make something awful. But until the next time, goodbye. Tangy.